Hello and a warm welcome to a very special podcast or a video podcast with a very special person. This is about people. This is about people's emotions, people's money, people's income, people's dream, regrets. Most of us, of course, have a real estate story to tell. And sometimes it's a dream, sometimes it's a regret, sometimes it's an elation. And in many cases, unfortunately, there are also stories where builders would have coasted us. But beyond these personal stories, there's like something bigger. It involves an entire sector that is a big, it has a very strong multiplier effect across India's broad economy because it shapes how India works, it employs in large numbers, it is driving demand for intermediate industries like cement and steel, and it is unleashing strong cascading effects across the broader economy. To a large extent, it is also a marker of what is happening in the broader economy. For instance, if the real estate sector starts a lot of demand, if we can see a lot of demand and there's a boom, then of course it's a clear marker that there's more disposable income in hands of people. There's also more confidence, consumer confidence, because people are investing in asset classes such as houses. Welcome to Home Truths. This is a video podcast where we are not here to sell you any property. So if you have imagine that we are here to sell you some property, it's not about selling property. We are not going to talk about listings. We are not going to talk about launches. We are going to try and decode what's really happening in the Indian real estate sector, where the market is heading, and more importantly, why it is heading in a particular direction and what could be the possible reasons for that. I'm your host, Gaurav Choudhury, but I'm not the hero of this show, and I don't intend to be because I'm not an expert. I'm thrilled to introduce the star of Home Truths, Ashwinder R. Singh, someone who knows this sector like the back of his palm and tracks it, has been tracking it for decades now. He has witnessed the highs and lows and comebacks of the sector. He's someone who has a 30,000 feet view as well as a ringside view. Ashwinder wears many hats. Among others, he's also the chairperson of the Real Estate Committee of the Confederation of Indian Industry. He's also the vice chairman and CEO of the BCD Group and a former banker. So he has seen it all. He has, as I said, he has a 360-degree view. He has a bird's eye view, and he also sits in a vantage position to have a ringside view of what's happening. Welcome, Ashwinder. Delighted to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gaurav. So happy that we are doing this show and talking certain things and discussing certain things which don't have a marketing angle to it.
Absolutely. That is the whole purpose. So it has to be educative, it has to build awareness, and it's also try and break down nuances and catch signals where it's not really visible. So let's start with the global picture. And it's all happening. It's all happening out there. The US President Donald Trump has set off a series of tariffs that's frightened the whole world. It has kind of triggered a global trade war that wasn't seen to be happening about a year or so before. So it has affected everything. It has disrupted trade and investment flows, and has seriously disrupted and raised risks of global supply chain. So this could have consequences. It could be inflationary. It could knock up prices of most goods that we consume, not just in the US for US consumers and households, also for countries like India. And importantly, peculiarly, Mr. Trump's actions on the tariff front could actually end up raising inflation for US households and consumers, affecting them more than anyone else. But that's a different matter. Economic shift lead to tangible opportunities for the Indian real estate sector? Because if you turn the lens on Indian real estate, do you think there are opportunities you can, or will it lead to consequences on the negative side, disrupting this sector too, like many others, both in the short run and the long run? Ashwinder?
See, Gaurav, I was on a show and I just said that when the tariffs started, the first country that was giving back the tariff to US was China. And I said that one bully can only be handled by another bully. Well,
That's right.
you know, but that's a different story because a whole lot of things have changed after that. But you know what tariffs do actually? Tariffs actually shake the supply chains.
Right.
And what happened when China right now is very unpredictable. The world is looking for a plan B, and that plan B could be India. Actually, it's going to be the biggest blessing in disguise for India only if we stop thinking like landlords and start acting like enablers.
Right.
The moment the problem with real estate is we start thinking like landlords and not like professionals and enablers. That is why the industry still struggles, and it is a very promoter driven industry. There are very few professionals who are developers in the industry. And what it means is, if we can deliver warehouses, industrial parks, commercials, that work, approvals that don't get stuck often, and timelines don't move or keep on moving, or the goalpost doesn't keep on moving. uh, uh, you know we won't just host this shift, we are going to lead it, because we are naturally the best plan B, not just for the US, but for the whole world. Education, English speaking, technology, economy doing well, e-commerce doing very well, per capita income going up, amongst the top 5 economies in the world. The world is seeing what India can deliver. So, you might be thinking, but I am celebrating tariff. And I think it's about spotting a vacuum and being bold enough to fill it. So we should grab this opportunity with both hands. We have a great relationship with US. If we can really focus on the ease of doing business, uh, this can be a game changer for India, and the next decade can be the fastest growing decade for not just Indian real estate, but for overall Indian economy.
Absolutely. Ashwin, very well said. And you know, India kind of ticks all the boxes to fill the vacuum and turn itself into the global growth engine that the world is looking towards. Because if ripples of the Trump tariff announcement have spread across the world, it is actually India that can pull the world economy back on track. And we have the right conditions and the right. Only that we need to create a certain. We need to change a few things about the way we go about doing a business. So that brings me to uh, another aspect which kind of tells the world's bullishness about India's prospects. Is also about the global capability centers. India is now perhaps the world's biggest destination for global capability centers. There are about 1,700 plus GCs in India and counting. And almost every day we see the one or two new GCCs, global transnational corporations, actually setting up or announcing the setting up of a new GCC in India. And GCCs are now moving away from a place like Bengaluru or Gurgaon for the same reasons they actually came from their home country to India, is cost arbitrage. The cost arbitrage of the tier two towns are now offering the same kind of opportunities for GCCs, but at a proportionately lower cost, which is kind of driving a lot of commercial property leasing activity in India. So in this context, and given this and this boom, this bullishness in the GCC space in India is likely to stay by all accounts. Uh, do you think that Indian commercial real estate activity has hit a sweet spot courtesy GCCs in India? Ashwinder?
So, Gaurav, this is something which is phenomenal, because GCCs in tier 2 is what I call the rise of real Bharat. And India, 80% is Bharat. Until the time the Bharat doesn't rise, I don't think India can ever become a developed country. So, this is fantastic, whether you are setting up a GCC in Indore or a Kochi or a Chandigarh or a Guwahati. You know, it's not just about office space. First of all, let me give you an example of Guwahati. Most of the people from Assam are coming to Bangalore, Mumbai, or Delhi to work. If something like GCC starts coming in Guwahati, that one center brings 4,000 professionals. It generates so much of employment. The whole people of Assam can converge towards Guwahati, stay near their home, their cost of living goes down, and they are happier, their families are happier. And what does that 4,000 professionals, need? They need homes, they need schools, they need gyms, co-workings, cafes, better roads, and a reason to stay. Now, what is happening is all the GCCs, which are in the top 7 cities, well, there when they come now, people look at it, oh, the jam will increase, or they are looking at so many other buildings which don't suit them. And here you have better land and space. And that is how real estate has to become a life enabler, not a land seller. So this move to tier 2 is very welcome. And we have to understand that real estate is not in the square foot business anymore. We are in
Right.
the quality of life business. So the more we move towards GCC, more moves towards tier 2, the quality life of Bharat improves.
Absolutely. It's interesting, Ashwinder, you talk about being enablers and moving beyond real estate, moving beyond square foot to becoming lifestyle enablers. But let me just extend that a bit and very briefly. If tier 2 is gaining traction today, tier 3 cannot be far behind. And because, and there's a lot happening in tier 3 too, because the pace at which infrastructure is transforming in India, digital connectivity is no longer an issue. That was an issue. It's now an issue of the past, so it doesn't exist any longer. And land is probably continues to remain comparatively more affordable in tier 3 cities. So how long do you think today's tier 3 will become tomorrow's tier 2, Ashwinder?
See, first of all, Pune and Gurgaon in 1998, 2000, you know, were not as glamorous as they are today. One of the companies who got into Gurgaon was Bajaj Finance, and they said that you won't be able to get talent. And today, Bajaj Finance is one of the most successful banking and financial services companies. So, anything that is not glamorous today is a great signal for us. Now everybody started loving to bet on tier 2, but tier 3 is the ground floor of the next thing, I feel.
Right,
So
right.
you 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 want some early signals, so you have to understand which tier 3 to focus on. So how would you do that? Maybe see where the government is laying a fiber, or where banks are quietly approving mortgages, or where land is clean, titled, good governance, and there are some big things being discussed behind closed doors, because real estate is also about understanding where the next level of growth is going to come. So tier
Absolutely.
3 might not have a lot of noise today, but we should watch it closely. And people who will move the first will get an advantage. But it's not that easy. So there needs to be more research around it. And there is a lot of action that is happening from the government side on the infrastructure side. So if you keep your eyes and ears open, you'll clearly get to know, which tier threes to focus on. By the way, Gaurav, uh, 50% of the land bought by developers last year has been in tier 2, tier 3 cities.
Oh wow, that's a fantastic telling piece of statistic actually. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, if half of the land that has been bought in recent times are in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, that is the kind of demand that developers anticipate in these towns and cities. So today's towns will become tomorrow's cities, and which is where talent and investment and everything will probably flock, and then it'll unleash the attendant multiplier benefits for the broad economy. But Ashwinder, I want to talk about something. It's probably a segue into something else, which happened very recently, which is on April 15th, and this is in Andhra Pradesh, in Vishakhapatnam, where the state government, the Andhra Pradesh government, allotted slightly more than 21 acres to an IT company, TCS in this instance, Tata Consultancy Services. But the story is that this land was allotted for a symbolic price of just 99 paisa. And what's your view on this? Because we saw something similar happening in Gujarat some years ago. It was in Sanand. Do you think this is the Sanand moment for Andhra Pradesh?
Well, Sanand completely changed the way people looked at Gujarat, and it also positions you as as a industry friendly state. So, people, I was talking to somebody and that person was laughing at the 99 paisa price, but that price isn't the point, the signal is. So they are very clear that they want to build the new state and they want it to compete. And what the state is saying is, look, uh, uh, we'll bet on you if you bet on us. So it's a quid pro quo, and absolutely a Sanand playbook all over again, and learning from a best practice from a state which has done so well in business, which is Gujarat. I think is the best thing you can do. We are asking consultants to come from the US and Europe and tell us how to do things. And we have a playbook that works so well. And it's gutsy, right? For politicians to do this, this is why we need politicians like this who can who can be gutsy, who can take such calls, and finally guts creates gravity. So
Right.
no other company, no, now other companies will say, if TCS is going there, why can't we go? TCS is not
Absolutely.
a small thing. Tata's going there. So Sanand also Tata's went. Here also Tata's went. So the governments are also looking at credible players. Why did they not choose any other company? That's for a separate debate. But now everybody will say, okay, if TCS is there, why can't we go there? Maybe Tata's goes there with some other industries, and then you have automobile, you have capital goods, you have hospitality, and everything else kind of following suit. So when governments take a risk, it gives the private sector a reason to believe. And this is what they have done in
Absolutely.
Andhra, and it's fantastic. It is fantastic.
Absolutely. And so there are two things here. There are two broad main points that you made, significant points. One is, of course, the why do we need to look for playbooks from overseas templates? There is a successful playbook here within India, and not just one. There are several too, if you look around. And two, the government has to demonstrate enough risk-taking ability, because the risk-taking ability will have to come from the government first for the private enterprises and the private industry to follow, because then it gives them confidence, and also tells the signaling of the government. But let's change tack a bit. Let's talk about residential properties, which is where the real action is visible. Do you think that it would be right to say that there is we can kind of divide the history of recent history of residential real estate in India into broad phases? One is pre-pandemic and post, and the second is post-pandemic. Do you think post-pandemic many things have changed because people are not just now fixated on location? So location is not the primary weightage. There are many other things that come about. There's functionality, there's convenience, and of course there's technology now, and people are getting more and more demanding on these aspects rather than getting focused only on location. Ashwinder?
Absolutely, very good point. Well, the home buyers have changed, the requirements have changed, design has become more important. Say for example, um, you know, affordable housing today often means bad location, um, and
Right.
uh, and premium housing earlier meant good location, but today it is all about design, it is about specs, it is about you know something that will work for the home buyer. Will my kid's school be 15 minutes away? Will I have to call a plumber every Sunday or not? Am I staying in a building which is not very hot? Is it green? Is it airy? Is that good sunlight? Do I have smart technology? Because the new home buyer, Gaurav, is a 30-year-old guy, not a 45-year-old guy. So they are married to technology. They are very comfortable with technology. They are looking at IoT. They are looking at smart tech. And for them, it is a big enabler. So for them, location is one thing. But for them, it is more important that, they want peace of mind with a front door. They want nice amenities. They want a 15-minute city, school, college, hospital, mall, office, hotel, everything around makes sense for them. They don't mind going a little farther from the central business district if they get spacious places, because location has been now replaced with space, Gaurav. If there is one thing people look at now, if earlier they looked at location, now they look at space. And that is what has changed after COVID. People want to live in a place which is more spacious. And obviously, your budgets can't just increase just because you're thinking about it. So there is some compromise you do, and the compromise you do is only with location. You don't compromise with the quality of building, quality of design, the quality of amenities. You compromise with the location and you go where you get something which makes you feel happy. And as I say, these over a period of next 3-4 years, you will have multiple 15-minute cities coming up, and that is going to be the go-to place for the new home buyer or the urban buyer.
Yeah, absolutely. Ashwinder, it's a very good point that you make. And also, I would assume that location has become less of a, increasingly becoming less of a factor, because what was earlier the suburbs have now got closer to the central business districts because of greater and more efficient public transport connectivity. We have better roads, and we also have intracity trains like metros, etc., which has kind of made location less of an important factor. Uh, but I have a different question. There's also a view that while luxury and premium housing is booming and there's discernible rise in demand, the quote unquote affordable segment is not really following suit. You can't see similar signals coming out from that segment. That is what one view says. That is a strand of thought, of course. I thought I'll ask you, what is your view on that? And secondly, do you think the needle or the definition on affordability itself has changed? So today's affordable house is very different from, in terms of pricing, of course, is very different from what we termed as affordable, was described as affordable, say, 10 years ago. Ashwinder?
See, this is a sensitive issue, but I don't think it's not a demand issue, Gaurav. It's a delivery issue. And just by making something affordable, what we have done is, as I was telling you earlier, affordable housing today, a home buyer often relates to bad location, tiny balconies, broken promises. They have started making, unfortunately, the home buyer feels it's not affordable, it's a punishment. That if we like something affordable, it's going to be small, it's going to be dark, it's going to be tacky. So meanwhile, premium is designed well, located well, feels aspirational. Affordable is not feeling aspirational. So tell me, you can always design affordable well, because that's not an incremental cost. So 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 guess what is happening is, every middle class income buyer is stretching because they want dignity, they don't want discount. See, I repeat this. A home buyer needs dignity, not discount. So they do not want to compromise on their family's well being. Just because they are middle class, somebody has less money, they will not compromise on home where they are going to spend their maximum time. Their parents are going to be there, their kids are going to be there, which is the most important thing for them. So, you know, fix the quality and transparency in affordable and it will fly again. Please let people know
Absolutely.
what do you mean by affordable. But affordable does not mean you're
Abs-
compromising on quality. Affordable does not mean you're
Absolutely.
compromising on transparency.
Right.
So that's
Absolutely.
what
Very
it is.
well said.
And people,
Dignity
people
over discount.
people in your real estate industry, just because most of them are busy building their personal brands and just being there, especially many newcomers just being there in the media, they don't understand this aspect. We have to call out the challenges that our industry is facing.
Absolutely. When we talked about personal brand of certain developers, I think what certain developers now need is a big build up in their own credibility, because while they suffer from a serious credibility crisis that has kind of percolated throughout the industry, which it is in the interest of the industry actually rebuild that credibility, because this sector, after all, is extremely critical and essential for India's economy. Finally, Ashwinder, if you had to pick three signals from data or on ground insights or the evidence and data that you have in your possession that industry watchers should track to understand where the market is headed? What would those three key markers and signals be?
Well, it's very simple. That's been my marker all throughout my real estate journey. I'm a former banker, as you know. Uh, that were my markers then also when we were looking at lending, mortgages, etc. Number one, Gaurav, is people. You have to see where people are moving. That will give you the a very strong perspective, because real estate is about people, people is about real estate. Roti, kapda, makan. Makan is very, very, very important, very critical, and that is number one. Number two, as I said, when we were talking about tier three, India has really done well on roads. It is about infrastructure, connectivity, because when you have good connectivity, Amritsar, Ahmedabad, Delhi, Mumbai, you'll have nodal cities that will come up. Connectivity is there, ease of travel is there, and that is the second indicator that is very important to always keep in mind. Number three, which very few people look at, is data where NBFCs and banks have started lending more, because they have to grow.
Hmm.
You have to understand that banking and financial services is the oldest industry. They have to grow their lending.
Right.
And, they were, like for example, NBFC was in 50 cities, now it is in 75 cities, then it is in 100 cities. Now, how they open new cities is based on data, based on GDP data, based on new industries coming in, new businesses coming in, MSM. CII plays a great role there, where I, work very closely with state governments to figure out, how can we grow real estate in states which are not in the center of attraction. For example, you know, what can you do in Himachal, for example, or which is the city in Himachal which will come next? So, lending data, where new offices are opening, where more lending is happening, infrastructure, and people movement. These three things
Absolutely.
are are easy, and you don't need a fourth thing.
Absolutely. No, no, very well said, and you very neatly and with a great degree of clarity distill the three key markers that one needs to watch out for, which way the real estate industry is heading. Thank you, Ashwinder, for sharing a deep insight and perspective on a variety of issues. We'll be back again with a fresh episode very soon. Thank you so much, Ashwinder, for taking the time out and dropping by to have this conversation with us. That's it from us for this episode of Home Truths, where we dive deep into the not just about real estate, but also about the broader issues of the broader economy as well as the world economy and many other related aspects. You can catch the episode on YouTube podcasts, on a host of podcast streaming platforms and directories, from Spotify.com to Apple Podcasts to Geo7, Earshot, and wherever you get your podcast from. Thank you so much. Take care and stay safe.